Hello, good people. I'm Tony MacFarlane, and this is the October 2025 Scroll Report, where we scroll back through the previous events of the last month in an effort to remediate them for the good of humanity. October 2025 was pretty messy. Being lied to right in our faces, and we can see the destruction and damage right before our eyes in plain view. But enough about the White House renovation. Let's get on to BoomScroll and DoomScroll. And the first BoomScroll of the month goes to Greta Thunberg, the Swedish activist who will show up to your cookout and remind you that there should be no raisins in the coleslaw. A lot of people take pleasure in vilifying Ms. Thunberg for speaking truth to power. Recently, German immigrant Peter Thiel labeled her the Antichrist. The Antichrist. Well, once Ms. Thunberg is wounded by the sword and yet lived, I might believe him. Thunberg was with the Global Samud Flotilla carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza when she was intercepted by Israeli authorities, arrested and detained earlier in October. They hit and kicked me, Thunberg told Swedish newspaper Aftonbladet, adding that the soldiers threw an Israeli flag over me. Then they ripped off my frog hat, threw it on the ground, stomped and kicked it, and kind of had a tantrum, she said. Well, if only swords were involved, Peter Thiel might be making a point. The next BoomScroll goes out to historian Wally Brown and Navajo Traditionals Teachings YouTube page, where he keeps Diné or Navajo culture alive by sharing the teachings with all of the world. This month, he put out a video saying words hurt only when they're true. And this really got me thinking. Only true words can offend you. So if you're offended by something somebody says, then is it true? If it's true, then that's your work. If it's not true, then why are you being offended by it? The next BoomScroll goes out to Anne Reardon with the How to Cook That YouTube channel. Ms. Reardon applies the scientific method to cooking and mostly debunking a lot of cooking videos on social media, YouTube, TikTok, what have you. I love watching the show because I really feel like Ms. Reardon hones my critical thinking abilities. Well, in October, How to Cook That published a video on how to test ChatGPT for hallucinations. It's a really simple hack. All you have to do is, at the end of your prompt, ask ChatGPT to please identify any factual inaccuracies in their reply. It's a simple thing. Check your work. It's the basis of ISO 9000 certification. So, tip of the hat to Ms. Reardon for reminding us how to apply the scientific method to our everyday lives. And this BoomScroll goes out to none other than FD Signifier, a towering intellect of media criticism. I've been following Mr. Signifier for a while now. I can say he's a role model and inspiration. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing the Scroll Report. So look him up. Look at all the stuff he's got to say. But in particular, he just this week released a definitive critique of Ryan Coogler's Sinners. I've been waiting for this critique. There's been an awful lot of white-splaining Sinners in the media these days, and Mr. Coogler himself won't talk about it, won't explain the movie, and this review kind of explains why. Mr. Signifier brings in Dr. Jared A. Ball, a professor of media studies and Africana studies at Morgan State University, author of the myth and propaganda of black buying power, to explain what he calls the Vernon philosophy of black media avoidance, to explain a lot of Mr. Kugler's predicament at the moment. You know, it's a lot like someone like me yelling "smash capitalism" on YouTube. It's that same kind of avoidance. It's an immediacy, is what I've been calling it. Dr. Ball's take on Marshall McLuhan is very interesting too. I would really love to have a discussion with him about that. I'm looking forward to watching Sinners again this Halloween with new eyes. The next BoomScroll goes out to Amfifa. You know, Amfifa, it's a new tactic that's to counter the extrajudicial military occupation of Portland, Oregon, to wear blow-up costumes and to laugh at the people who are threatening them with violence. It goes back to Sophia McClellan's works on the intersection between culture, politics, and society. Don't fight the fascists, laugh at them. Nothing weakens a fascist more than laughter. And these blow-up guys all twerking in front of the cordons, it's just hilarious. Well done, Janet. Well done, everyone. Speaking of Portland, great boom for Andrew Callaghan and his Channel 5 project for finally explaining to me why Portland lives in the president's head so much. Portland may very well have been the epicenter of the George Floyd protests in 2020, where the city was indeed a tinderbox. The protests were mainly led by the Rose City Antifa and employing black bloc tactics to counter the repression of those riots at the time. It could be argued that Portland was instrumental in defeating Donald Trump in the 2020 election. Well, whether it was true or not, it's a shade of gray that the president seems to see only in black and white. Meanwhile, right-wing social media influencers have been converging on the city and documenting content that has a direct line to the president's ear. I understand that there is a lot of nuance to this story, and I'm not covering it as well as Andrew Callaghan did. So I urge you to watch his Channel 5 broadcast on Portland for a very full, objective view of the situation in that city. This BoomScroll goes out to one Adam Conover, former host of the TV show Adam Ruins Everything, and current board member of the Writers Guild of America. His YouTube channel is really full of information, and his last video, he turned me on to the Pimple Popper app. Very satisfying to be squeezing on those pimples on that Pimple Popper app. But I gotta tell you, that Pimple Popper app is just not as good as what Mr. Conover claimed it to be. The resolution's too low, it doesn't quite work, the animation's too rapid. Really more work needs to be done to build a truly satisfying Pimple Popper app. But no, what actually Mr. Conover did was expose the circular nature of the current AI bubble to kind of justify its bubble nature. It is a very complicated issue, the way that NVIDIA and OpenAI, Microsoft, AMD, Intel, Oracle, XAI, and others are kind of playing a shell game with funding, recycling across equity stakes and reciprocal purchase agreements to obfuscate really where the money's coming from, where it's going, and what the return on it is. I'm actually worried about when the chips actually start shaking out where they'll fall. The taxpayers. And the last BoomScroll of October 2025 goes to Reginald Dwayne Betts, poet, lawyer and founder of Freedom Reads, a project to open libraries and prisons, who has succeeded this month in building 500 prison libraries. Well done, sir. Well done. You know, I thought I could go the entire month of October without a DoomScroll. Made it a couple of weeks, I guess, flying high on ceasefire in Gaza. But then the DoomScrolls started flying in. I'm not even going to report on all of these pardons that seem to be way outside the bounds of a constitutional republic. First, Politico reports leaked messages exposing young Republicans' racist chats. Around the middle of October, Politico obtained a trove of Telegram chats spanning more than 7 months of messages among young Republican leaders in New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. The chat offered an unfiltered look at how a new generation of GOP activists talk when they think no one is listening. Bipartisan outrage at this story caused our vice president See, that's why I need a research assistant. I can't even trust myself to find a good picture. That picture there is a Reddit meme of our Vice President J.D. Vance, which caused Norwegian tourist Mads Mikkelsen to be detained and denied entry to the United States because that picture was on his phone. Low-hanging fruit. Come on, Tony. Let's do our vice president right. Show me a picture of how he really looks when he's selling his soul. Ah, much better. On October 15th, Vance on the Charlie Kirk show said, "Grow up. Focus on the real issues. Don't focus on what kids say in group chats. The reality is that kids do stupid things, especially young boys. They tell edgy, offensive jokes. It's what kids do." Well, let's take a closer look at these young boys. A lot of thanks to Mother Jones for this information. We have Peter Giunta, former chair of the New York State Young Republicans. He's 32. William Hendricks, vice chair of the Kansas Young Republicans, 24. Alex Dwyer, chair of the New York State Young Republicans, 29. Joe Maligno, general counsel for the New York State Young Republicans, 35. And let's see, we still have Bobby Walker, Luke Moseman, and a young boy, Rachel Hope, who Mother Jones was not able to locate their actual ages. Do you think that they're under 20? Do you think they're minors? So I have heard that there were consequences. Many of these young kids lost their prestigious positions in state and local GOP committees. But after seeing George Santos back again, I'm pretty sure we haven't seen the last of these little boys. And in a related, but much more delicious DoomScroll, on October 14th, a Florida teen was arrested for faking his own kidnapping. Apparently, he shot himself in the leg and then purported that 4 Hispanic men in a light-colored van attacked him and took his MAGA hat. There were an alarming amount of red flags, said Sheriff Billy Woods, after he had learned that the teenager recently bought a bicycle, tent, and camping supplies. He was found in September wandering the roadway with a gunshot wound in his leg. While investigators did find evidence of a gunshot near his truck, Sheriff Woods said the teen shot himself in the leg with the handgun he had taken with him. The teen's story was completely made up, and he shot himself in order to continue the ruse. Since his arrest on October 14, his parents have refused to cooperate with authorities. As is their right, he is a minor. The Schadenfreude is so delicious on the story. It's now I finally get to feel the Schadenfreude the Red Hats felt with, you remember. You know the difference between Jussie Smollett and this Florida teen, don't you? The Florida teen shot himself in the leg. Jussie Smollett paid somebody to beat on him. See, that's the difference. A kid isn't mature enough to realize what shooting yourself in the leg is going to do. And an adult can afford to have people go a little light on him. I've also been lapping up the reaction from the left, who've been calling for this kid's head. Try him as an adult. They've been wanting to prosecute the parents for exercising their rights. It's almost as if they're trying to channel United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro. Oh, Tony, you did it again. Please explain you're picking this picture. This is a screenshot from a 2025 press conference that Ms. Pirro gave shortly after her confirmation as the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Her erratic and bizarre performance in this press conference led to a lot of online speculation that she was intoxicated, leading to more rumors of past instances of her being intoxicated on camera, and leading to genuine questions of her competence and capability of acting as a true prosecutor for the city. So, fair use. And besides, I can't swear that I ever record these scroll reports sober. Look, I'm sure that Ms. Pirro is down deep a good person who's well loved by her friends and her family. But as the attorney for the District of Columbia, after this month announcing that her intention to prosecute several underage suspects in some high-profile assault cases as adults, I don't think she has the best interests of our community at heart. Clearly, we're all a little too involved with all compassion for me, none at all for thee. Enough of that now. Let's use this one case to show how we can take the high road. And then, in October 23rd, in a rare display of governmental competence, Kash Patel announced the arrest of Portland Trail Blazers head coach, player from the Miami Heat, as well as 30 others in illegal sports betting and rigged poker games backed by the mafia. Portland coach Chauncey Billups was charged with participating in a conspiracy to fix high-stakes card games tied to La Cosa Nostra organized crime families, cheated unsuspecting gamblers out of at least $7 million. Heat guard Terry Rozier was accused on a separate scheme of exploiting private information about players to win bets in NBA games. Also charged was former NBA assistant coach and player Damon Jones, who stands accused of participating in both schemes. So, here's the DoomScroll in all of this. Chauncey Billups is the role model to me and many others, I am sure. These guys have so much already. Why did they need to do this? And not just these players who were caught, but the billionaires who are rich enough to fund the development of online sports betting. You have enough already. Why do you have to have more? Okay, here comes the last doom scroll of the month. Oh, pull up your britches. This one's worth it. The slow motion getaway of two thieves from the Louvre by a furniture lift caught on video was a dramatic twist in the country's most spectacular heist of the decade, which is saying something considering that there were several other major heists in France this year. The thieves made off with 8 pieces, including an emerald and diamond necklace that Napoleon Bonaparte gave his second wife, Marie-Louise, and a diadem that once belonged to Empress Eugenie, wife of Napoleon III. The diadem was dropped during the robbery and damaged severely. As of today, 7 people have been arrested in connection with the Louvre jewelry heist. 2 were arrested about last week, and 5 more suspects were arrested earlier this week. Early last week, many figureheads spoke out about who might be behind the robbery. Guesses included wealthy Middle Eastern princes, Vladimir Putin for making France look bad, billionaire businessmen devoid of moral character. However, by now, the consensus is pretty much that the burglary was intended to destroy the pieces. In this case, the jewelry, when deconstructed, will amount to roughly 8,700 diamonds, 34 sapphires, 38 emeralds, 200 pearls, and an unknown number of grams of gold and platinum. And probably like most of us, we kind of got a little thrill out of it, kind of cheered on the thieves a little bit as underdogs fighting for the common man against the great big colonizer. But on more reflection, when guided by my oversimplified moral compass, when giving is good and taking is bad, this was taking. This was an act of evil. These precious items belong to the people, and the best place to keep the people's assets is in a place like the Louvre, where all the people have access to it and where it can be kept safe for the people. If these items had something to do with colonization, then the thieves were trying to strike a blow for, resistance, then come out and say it. The people who took these things, who still have possession of all of these items, then speak up if you're so good. And now it's time for Mizwell Yell at the Sky. On October 18th, Americans in the millions turned out for demonstrations called No Kings protests. Estimated between 5 million, 6.5 million participants in 2,700 locations throughout the country. Estimates make this one of the largest single-day protests in American history. About 200 groups across the political spectrum organized these protests, including 50501, Indivisible, the American Civil Liberties Union, Democratic Socialists of America, Planned Parenthood Federation of America, American Federation of Teachers, the League of Women Voters, the American Federation of Government Employees, ostensibly to stand up to the policies and actions of the second Trump administration. Organizers were adamant that the rallies remain peaceful and held safety training sessions virtually to ensure that. And were successful. The No Kings protest was largely peaceful, with a handful of arrests, the majority being right-wing agitators and counter-demonstrators. There were some injuries, especially in Los Angeles, where a curfew was imposed. But the main aim was from an email from Indivisible, pushing for the 3.5% rule in participation in this demonstration. The 3.5% rule, not to be confused with 6-7, is a concept in political science that states that when 3.5% of a population protests nonviolently against an authoritarian regime, that regime is likely to fall from power. The rule was formulated by Erica Chenoweth in 2013 based on the insights originally published by political scientist Mark Lieback in his 1995 book, The Rebel's Dilemma: Economics, Cognition, and Society. Ms. Chenoweth teamed up with nonviolence researcher Maria Stefan to formulate a paper and then a book entitled Why Civil Resistance Works. So, 3.5% of the United States population comes out to about 11.5 to 12 million people. Seeing that the best estimates of the No Kings rally was 7 million, see, we still have a little ways to go. And of course, there's a lot of criticism of the 3.5% rule, especially coming from the left, saying that maybe the data is a little too cherry-picked. We're ignoring revolutions that worked with violence and non-violent revolutions that didn't work. But I haven't heard any criticism from the right. What I've heard from the right is abject fear and loathing. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy on October 3rd said the protesters were part of Antifa, an organization which the president had labeled a domestic terrorist organization in a previous month. Attorney General Pam Bondi said, "You're seeing people out there with thousands of signs that all match, pre-bought, pre-put together. They're all organized, and someone is funding it." But the most hilarious reaction has to have been from Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. Because Mike Johnson has a tell. When Johnson is shit scared, his jaw stops moving when he talks. When he's confident he's got the upper hand, his jaw is looser than a coke fiend. When he's scared of something, his jaw gets as tight as an acid head. Case in point, on October 16th on MSNBC, when asked about his refusal to swear in Arizona Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva, Johnson said, "I say, bless her heart. She's a representative-elect and just doesn't know how things work around here. We're going to give her the oath of office as soon as we get back to regular session." However, previously on October 10th, Johnson gave a press conference regarding the No Kings rally, saying this: "They're going to descend on our capital for their much-anticipated so-called No Kings rally. We refer to it by its more accurate description, the Hate America rally. And I'm not sure how anybody can refute that. If you think about what's going to happen here tomorrow, the socialists, the Antifa advocates, the anarchists, and the pro-Hamas wing of the far-left Democrat Party, they hate capitalism. They hate our free enterprise system. They hate our principles. They hate the ideas that we come to work every day to fight for, to preserve the greatest nation in the history of the world." After all, they are justified in their panic, aren't they? When has a crowd of people demanding the head of the king ever gone well for the king? Instead of calling for his own Roy Cohn, I suggest the president start calling for his own Henry Kissinger. So I am hoping the next No Kings rally approximates 11.5, 12 million people. Imagine 12 million people standing up to this regime. Better yet, How about 3.5% of the planet? That would be 287 million people, practically the population of the entire United States, standing up as one, holding a global general strike. Oh, I pray for that day. And now we come to scroll bits. The week of my birthday, the week of October 5th through 11th, was Banned Book Week. I hope you read a banned book. It's still not too late. Here are some suggestions. Feel free to buy me a birthday present next year of The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, 1984 by George Orwell, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, The Hunger Games by Susan Collins, All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, and The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. My book of the month is Shadow Ball on the Hill by my friend and former colleague Earl Wyatt II. Shadow Ball on the Hill is a historical intrigue set in Pittsburgh in the early 1900s, featuring Negro League baseball at its peak, as well as perhaps the industrialization in Pittsburgh, all centered around the mystery of a missing young woman. Mr. Wyatt has also recently joined a late-night style comedy troupe as a writer and producer, and I wish him all the best with that. And you can keep up with Mr. Wyatt by finding Earl Wyatt on Facebook. Cartoonist Gary Larson has some new cartoons on the internet. It's amazing how his cartoons now make more sense than our everyday world does. And in music news, rapper 50 Cent is now 110 cents adjusted for inflation. Has anybody told him? A lot of works in progress are incredibly upset about one Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, better known as Bad Bunny, the king of Latin trap, will be performing at the 2026 Super Bowl. On October 22nd, dancer Misty Copeland, now 43 years old, marked the end of a 25-year career with the American Ballet Theatre by retiring. She was one of the youngest ever solo performers for the American Ballet Theatre, and she was the first black female dancer to be promoted to principal in the American Ballet Theatre in 2015. I'm getting really confused about some of this neo-Jacobin stuff that's going on in movies and TV these days. I call neo-Jacobin anything that follows this philosophy that all the world is corrupt and the best you can do is just stay out of it. Neo-Jacobin characters often fall into one of two ciphers, either evil trying to do good or evil pretending to do good. Netflix's Triple Frontier is an example of the latter. It's a remake of The Treasure of Sierra Madre, but the characters slowly begin to realize their part in their own destruction. I loved it because it was so hunky. Ah, yeah, man meat all over the screen. Boy. That's what confuses me so much about the HBO's The Chair Company. I can't seem to orient the moral compass in that show. It's not like HBO's Task, where we can see it's obviously a bad person trying to do good, or FX's The Lowdown, where one character just comes right out and says, the world is corrupt and the best you can do is stay out of it. I'm beginning to think there's no puzzle in The Chair Company. Maybe it's just badly written? One of the best ways of pushing your bubble into a tunnel is through travel. especially international travel. So for hermetizing homebodies like me, I get a lot of joy out of reading others' travelogues. My favorite travelogue now is my former colleague Darrell Walters' Traveling Walters. Since he's retired, he's been traveling the world and writing a blog about his experiences. My favorite was when he went to London to catch an NFL football game. I thought that was fantastic. Talk about pushing a bubble into a tunnel all the way to London, man. Great work. If you have a travelogue, share with me, please. I love travelogues. If you're thinking of writing one, then get to it. Here's our Memento Mori for October 2025. We lost First Nations actor Graham Greene in September, and I was reminded just how much I miss him watching The Lowdown. Mr. Greene, from the Oneida Nation, first achieved acclaim for his role as Kicking Bird in Kevin Costner's Dances with Wolves. My favorite film performance of him is Thunderheart in 1992. I've also loved his cameos in every TV show I've seen him in, such as American Gods, 1883, The Last of Us, Reservation Dogs, Tulsa King, and The Lowdown. In 2018, Mr. Greene also provided the voiceovers and motion capture for Elder Chief Rain's Fall in Red Dead Redemption 2 video game. On October 14th, Michael Eugene Archer, better known as D'Angelo, passed away from pancreatic cancer at the age of 51. D'Angelo is a songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and record producer, largely regarded as one of the pioneers of the neo-soul movement, paving the way for other artists such as Maxwell and Music Soulchild. And just last Sunday, on October 26th, we lost jazz drummer Jack DeJohnette at age 83. DeJohnette was known mainly for his work with Miles Davis and the Bitches Brew album, and as well as his own groundbreaking 1970 album, Have You Heard? DeJohnette is also known for his collaborations with other fusion artists such as Keith Jarrett, Pat Metheny, and Chick Corea. And there you have it, the Scroll Report for October 2025. Subscribe to this video, that's all well and good, but the Scroll Report video is just the appetizer. The real meat and potatoes of the Scroll Report comes out this Tuesday in a newsletter. Subscribe to that newsletter on TonyMacFarlane.com and stay in the know for all the scrolls of the past month. Thanks for your eyes, and have the best November 2025 ever. And don't forget, crossing a border is not a crime. Enforcing the borders is Congress's job. Thank you, and have a nice day. Bye.